Rebel Radio presents The Culture.
This is Rebel Radio.
Rebel Radio.
Rebel Radio.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Rebel Radio. This is your host, Dom, and I'm here with, are you still Lucky Fats or Fat Jesus? What's going on?
Jesus this week.
Fat Jesus. And we have special guests with us this week. Who we got with us, Fats?
Oh, you caught me with the water.
I caught you with the water. I caught you. See if you on your toes, bruh. No, I'm messing with you. We have LaKeisha with us and Artie. Hey, what's going on?
Hey, thanks for having us back.
No problem, right? Thanks for joining us. It's been a minute.
It has. I'm happy to be here. Happy to see you guys. I missed you all.
No, I missed you too. The last interview was awesome.
Thank you. I
Really
think you guys
cool.
might have actually been the first Bike and Brunch Tours podcast interview.
Really?
I think you might have, yes, a special place in the heart.
I love it.
And you took it easy, so it made us want to go and do some more. So, I wasn't scared. It's like, oh, it's not so bad.
It's not bad at all. It's cool. If anything, for me, I was more nervous. I'm not even gonna lie to you. It was like, oh my God, I'm like,
No.
not really. But honestly, I'm just glad that you guys are still here. You still doing your thing.
All of us, especially in times like these.
Yes, the climate is
Yes.
totally different. The world.
It's a whole other world.
Yes. If only we can stay in our little bubble, but that's a whole nother situation.
I've thought about it. A bubble around the bike and just pedal through the streets and get out in the bubble. Hang out.
Yes. So what's new?
Yes.
Well, Artie's still over there being clutch, filling in all of the areas where I am still learning and growing on the technical side. So that's the same. I think Artie might have some projects up his sleeve, but I'm not gonna put his business out. I'll let him do that on his own as he wants. But as far as Bike and Brunch Tours specifically, the growth out of the previous interview, I think last time we were just in Baltimore. Now we're in Charlotte and Richmond. Last time we were hoping to leverage the use of bike share as our bike rental. So, people could keep on moving on their bike share after and on their commuter for fun. The bike share world has definitely morphed in directions that we didn't expect, as in completely leaving Baltimore, coming back, leaving. And the instability wasn't really great for our business model, as well as the type of service we like to provide. So we now offer bike rentals. And so if you need to take a ride, you're welcome to use bike share, but we find that most people now prefer to use the bikes because touch-free, sanitized, delivery, pull out the, ultraviolet wand.
Oh, wow.
So full service with that. And now that our season is over, if people want to rent bikes, we still do that, and even for long term. And we've been doing some speaking. We, as in me, not so much Bike and Brunch Tours, but more so myself on behalf of Bike and Brunch Tours at some transportation conferences. And last but not least, of course, in keeping with COVID, we are implementing practices to keep everybody safe. Smaller groups. We also have private tours for people who want to get out, do things with their family and friends, so they can still do something in these times, but do so in a way that they feel physically distanced but socially engaged. And last but not least, coming soon are the self-guided tours and virtual tours. So So you don't want to see our faces or deal with anybody from the crew. And you just want to go out with you and your friends, and you still want to get the fun experience. And even, well, when places are open, because we know that I think like about an hour ago, we went back into no indoor outdoor at all. Before we were just doing outdoor. So, but we still have ways to make sure people brunch and bike and have a great time on their own. So those are the new things. That's the rundown for now. Sure, I left something out, but I think that otherwise won't take up the whole entire space and time we have here.
No, that right there is awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, the expansion and everything in your
We have some
conference.
new things coming on for the new year. I don't want to put them out there, but we've always had people who've been supportive behind the scenes who couldn't do without them. Of course, Artie being like the main like support, like thank you. But we'll have some people who will be, hopefully my face will become smaller and less visible, and I will fade into the background, and other people who are more representative of the communities and cities we tour will be the people who will be more prevalent, more visible. So I'm sure it will just get better from there.
Wow. You guys have been busy.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yes, she
Busy.
has.
From when I remember when we first were talking to
Right.
see it, the fruition and everything now is like, wow, even to the virtual and to where you have and where people can do the tours on their own. Like
Yeah. And the retreats have been really great too, because like people who want to, we've had organizations that have their cohorts and they want to get to know the city, new people in town. And they're going to do these programs. And of course, they want to orient them to the city in a way that is a full narrative, not, the stigmas that people place on certain parts of the city. Then also not just hanging out around the harbor. So that's been really great. And then also people who, they're just tired of like sitting in a conference room, for a full day doing things. And so this has been a great way to sort of give people office and their business supporters.
Wow. I'm blown away, Fats.
You're fun. Thank you.
Honestly.
You're kind.
Even for family reunions and things like that, like, you want like.
Exactly. We had hoped to do something with the Zetas this year, but of course, all the big conferences and whatnot, none of that happened. So, there was Afro-Punk in Brazil. There was we were planning a trip, and we have like community down there in Bahia, Salvador. Yes, a lot did not happen, but a lot did happen. So,
wow, and a lot is going to happen.
Indeed.
So, stay tuned.
Indeed. Yeah. Yes, please.
So for more information, how can people get in contact for the tours or to get information, their websites and stuff? Can you drop that for us, please?
Definitely. Thanks for asking, because I would forget. So we are on Instagram and Facebook at Bike and Brunch Tours. One bike, one brunch, many tours. And then on Twitter at Bike Brunch Tours. No and. The website is Bike and Brunch Tours. Pretty much, if you just put Bike and Brunch Tours, that's AND tours. It'll populate, and tickets are available through all of those. So Facebook, there's a buy now tickets link. Instagram, the link in the bio has a button where you can click to buy tickets. Also on the website, there are buttons to click for standard tours as well as private tours. And just another thing, private tours are still taking place. They're year-round by request. We ask that you have at least 5 people, though. Typically it's 10, but because of COVID, we say at least 5. And if the weather's right and you're willing to ride, we'll make it happen for you. So it's just that the group tours are not available anymore. So yeah. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, website.
And we'll make sure we have all the information in the description.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
And and we are now offering some of our merchandise in the Reginald F. Lewis Museum. It's a great place if people have not been to Baltimore and have not been to the museum to check out the gift shop. And also if that are the gift certificates, because we want to make sure that the electronic people typically use is not the only option. So now with those, people can walk into anybody who is selling those, buy them with cash or whatever form they have, and then use a gift certificate to purchase a tour. They also make great holiday gifts.
Just in time. Just in time. Kwanzaa, birthday.
Yeah. Hanukkah. You're Hanukkah right now.
Hanukkah. Yeah, it is Hanukkah right now. All that good stuff. Now, as far as COVID, I know you mentioned like the climate with that, and even the situation with the bikes, keeping it. Like, how are you? Even a response with that? How are you able to? I mean, I don't want to really pick it from you, but to the response time with that, like, how are you able to handle that so rapidly and quickly with the climate that we're in? Like, we can barely get toilet paper and hand sanitizer.
People don't have Costco. Like, last year for 6 months. No, I'm joking. But no, that's a great question. And, that goes a little bit deeper into, I guess, like business models and scalings and agility. And a lot of times, being small can have its pitfalls, but it also is helpful because, as they say, it's really difficult to turn around a ship, but you can turn a little sailboat on a dime. So we're more a sailboat than we are a ship. And so a lot of times when there's necessity or you see something like with the bike share versus the bike rentals, not operating the way that you want it to, that's something that you can just go do it. Since there are not a lot of sort of layers per se. And then as far as just precautions and whatnot, having people around you who are also dealing with the same thing, who are smarter than you are, who know about the different options, people like Artie, where you can just say, hey, this is what I want to do, and you can tap in and say, what are the best ways to do it? And you can respond quickly and do those things. But as far as response to customers, that is one reason why we do ask that people book tickets at least a day, 24 hours in advance. So a lot of times people will say hey, it's Saturday morning, I want to take a tour, I can't get a ticket. And that's because ticket sales close at least 24 hours prior to the tour, or when they sell out. Same with bike rentals. We ask people to do that in at least 48 hours in advance for a tour, or just if they want to take a bike off on their own. So we have time to prep it, coordinate your drop-off pickup location, and make sure they're available. And as far as private tours, even further in advance, we ask people to schedule their private tours at least a week in advance. So know that if you do come on a Bike and Brunch tour, you're going to meet people who are probably pretty good with time management, because we do ask for a little bit of advance notice. And we will work with people, but we try to try to ask people to do things in a way that lets you get the most optimal experience with everybody else and not make it feel like you're running around. So
respect.
I got a question.
Go ahead, sir.
Well, especially early in the pandemic, everywhere was sold out of bikes. So there's way more bikers than we ever really imagined. Has the demographic of people going on brunch tours changed?
No. But I'm sorry, you weren't finished your question.
No. That was
in my head tip of my you're taking me down the lane, and I'm happy that you are, because I want to talk about this more and more. But go ahead.
Please, go.
So, it's not even a rabbit hole. It's like a trail that I feel like people refuse to acknowledge is there, which is the trail of Black people being on bicycles. If you go back to people like, we had Miss Kitty, who was, one of the women who broke through with the League of American Cyclists when it was a time when only white men were biking and allowed to be in these organizations and invited in to have a voice. And she actually pushed her way in. And most people would say, like, oh, she's an anomaly. Well, when you think about it, when people are usually pushing their way into an organization, it's not really because they're the only one. It's probably because there are no other people that they've been doing it, and they do want to be part of this and feel like there's a necessity for their voice in their community to be represented. And then you talk about, Major Taylor. You talk about different people, Cheetah. Well, a lot of people don't refer to him. He's still Nelson Vales. Justin Williams, Aisha McGowan. Like, there are tons of people, and that's more like in their lane, more competitive. But then you have organizations like Red, Bike, and Green. You have, I say newer pre-bike boom, newer Black Girls Do Bike. A lot of these organizations, probably at least, 5 to 10 years old. Major Taylor clubs have been around for a while. And even if you just talk about the advent of just these community and casual rides, they've been happening and going on. However, I think that organizations, industry, and even just the general brand market, apparel, and wherever else you want to point the finger, if you may, have technically excluded people. I didn't find out till after starting Bike and Brunch Tours that my grandfather used to bike to work. He was a bike commuter.
Oh.
Down South Carolina. I mean, I'm sure he wasn't thinking like, I'm a bike commuter. He was thinking, yeah, down the street makes more sense. Let me ride my bike down here. And then even the history of the bus boycotts. People wholeheartedly ignore how many Black folk were not on public transportation, but on a bike or walking. Like, people think everybody walked. I promise you it was a lot of people biking and riding through. Even if you look back at pictures, there's this one picture that I love. It's like the buses moving through town, and then it's all these Black people on bikes beside the bus who aren't otherwise on that bus. So I say that to say the demographic has maybe changed only because our community has, I think, become more open and not taken the bait to believe this imposed notion that Black people don't ride bicycles, or that it's not cool or it's not okay. But I think Black people, I mean, I'm in the middle of the 21217 right now, or West Baltimore, and I can't tell you a day when I look out the window or go down the street and don't see somebody on a bicycle. However, if you go downtown and you have a conversation with any major bike organization or even municipal transportation office, at least prior to this year, there was always this campaign around, how do we get Black people on bicycles? How do we build awareness? But it's just like, why don't you just come to the community and ask people what they need or what they want, because the awareness isn't needed. You're the one who's not aware that we're out here. And that people are biking. It's just not in a way that you accept or acknowledge as this sort of way to bike, the right way, or the way that you acknowledge. So specific to the tour, I will say that our demographics haven't changed a lot, but I will say that I think there's been more excitement and interest from people who are Black, who are younger. I think we were getting people who were probably, your Gen X and older, who were looking at this as an activity, whereas now that it's cool and you see all these people who are popular biking and doing things, now I think people see it as like something that they're willing to do. So, yeah. And Artie, I don't know, I'm sure you probably have some thoughts on this.
Yeah, it's like cycling now is the new golf. And I don't mean Volkswagen, but it's the new golf. It's the new vogue thing. And Back to what Keisha said before about a cyclist, I always think about, and I think she and I have had this conversation. What is a cyclist? What defines a cyclist? Is it the guy or a woman who is all spandexed up in their kit and they're out on the road? Is it just them? Is it just somebody who's doing hardcore mountain biking? These are the two. Can't see my hands going back and forth, but these are the two. It's like the far end of the spectrum. It's either glass smooth road, or you're on Red Bull and you're jumping off a mountain. But there's so much in between there. Is it just like LaKeisha said when her grandfather, he commuted to work. All the commuters throughout Baltimore and DC. Though the kids, the wheelie boy, that guy that you see, or woman that you see on the way to a construction zone, and he has his backpack on, and they're riding their bike to work. That person who's just riding their bike, the kids riding around the neighborhood just having fun. They're cyclists.
Right.
So if we just box cyclists, you can only become a cyclist once you get to this level, not the everyday level. You're still all cyclists. You're on a bicycle and you're using it as a mode of transportation. You're using it for fun, for fitness, for fellowship, for whatever you're doing it for. You are a cyclist, and I think people need to realize that. And it's in those other quote unquote tiers is where you find a lot of us. There's not a lot of the Aisha McGowan's out there and the Justin Williams, and they're killing it, from a performance standpoint and from a community standpoint. I mean, they're doing great things, and like LaKeisha as well. Those people are all cyclists, and if we just start there, and that one question is, how do we get people on bikes? Well, a lot of times, I say. And it's because it's kind of where my lane has been, or have been carving out for me, because I'm a tinkerer by nature. How do we get people on bikes? Well, I'll tell you what, once you go outside to the shed, you probably have one or two of them in there. And they're probably a lot more bike than you think you have. So if we look at the trend and we look at the biggest thing popping right now in the cycling world are multi-surface bikes or gravel bikes, right? So most of those, and just to go down the technical rabbit hole just for a little bit, most of those, the geometry, the way the bike's built, mimics an old 90s mountain bike. So those old bikes, those old Treks and Specialized and Mongoose, those bikes back in the heyday of early mountain biking are what a lot of commuters are using, bike packers, people who are doing touring on bicycles. That's what they're using. So you probably have the most popular bike right now in your shed, in your basement, and people who are selling them and moving them on Craigslist and Let Go and all of these other places to buy used bicycles. They're getting a premium for them. I had a basement full of them. LaKeisha's been beating me over the head. You need to boom. And my daytime job, I let it get to me because I work 7 days a week, but a lot of people have those things already. You already have it. I think the industry needs to broaden its view of what a cyclist is, and I think they are, especially when you get to some of these smaller shops, these wheel builders and these custom houses, and some of your really funky bicycle shops, the smaller ones that are not chains, just small mom and pop and brick and mortar shops. They see it. They see the value in it because, let's face it, they make a lot of their money off of the service aspect versus selling you a new bike, which right now obviously we're in a shortage of. So, and then we need to broaden our aspect of what a cyclist is, and understand you're part of the club. You have a bicycle that you use for those things. You're a cyclist, and let's just face it, you are. You don't have to have a kit on. Just have a bicycle, have a helmet, and have the sense to point, keep the rubber side down. Unless you like to jump over stuff.
want to
Yeah,
ask this as well, like, especially with like a lot of people being included in being a cyclist. You have a lot of newer people being included as cyclists also with I rode one the other day, and it was the craziest thing because I put it on like number 4. The guy described it as a e-bike, like it was an assisted bike.
Pedal, probably.
Yeah, I was not pedaling. And I was like, I was scared.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that too, because those pedal assist and those e-bikes, if you're not used to being on a bike, I do think they should break people into those things. Because I myself, it catches me off guard. I have to remember, like, because it gives you a little centrifugal force. Not centrifugal force, but the momentum. Yeah, so
Like a little takeoff, huh?
yeah.
It's electric, so all the power is available right now. That's the thing you have to understand about, the e-bikes. I'm sorry, I'm getting all the kinds of alerts.
No, you good.
That power is available right now. It's a battery. So as soon as you hit the go button, hit the throttle, you're gone. And like LaKeisha said, that's a very, very good point. They need to give people the awareness. Okay, look, this is think motorcycle. Don't think bicycle. Because bicycle.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What were you about to say? What were you saying?
That's what's closer to, because it's like you hit 4, and next thing you know, you're almost going like 15 miles. Like, what is going on?
Yeah, probably.
You have to lean into it, because with a bicycle, just the sheer mechanics of it, you have your hands on the handlebars, and when you pedal, you're leaning forward because you're thinking that's helping you with the momentum. With a pedal assist or an e-bike, anything that's that is actuated with your hand solely, as soon as you hit that, it's gone and you're that way. So I come from the world, I rode motorcycles in this area. So, that's what I think when I get on that. So, and quite honestly, I've yet to ride an e-bike.
Oh, yeah.
I'm afraid of getting addicted.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll get addicted. That's the thing. You joked about you weren't pedaling or doing anything, and there is that question of, and I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole here, but I tell everybody, Google, I don't know, e-bike New York, put messenger, put delivery e-bike, and just put those words in Google. And even if you want to put cases or tensions or what have you, there have been a lot of probably sort of quiet tensions about, what's a bike, what's not a bike, when can you legitimately be in a bike lane? Because at some point you're just a moped in a bike lane for some people, but at the same time too, you don't want to alienate people who are, using a bike for work, and they happen to have, this technology. But I wanted to bounce back to something that I think we sort of like alluded to, but didn't go directly at, which is sort of the shortage of bicycles. And I'm sure anybody who's watching this would probably still be interested, whether now or when it gets warmer, in finding their own bike. We are more than happy to rent a bike to you, but I definitely understand the benefit of having a bike you can access on your own. And I just want to say, if you're watching this on, YouTube or wherever, slide the bar back to the time where Artie spoke about Let Go and a couple of these other marketplaces, because there are several marketplaces that I think are untapped. And if we want to put on our sort of like green hat or wave our green sustainable flag, new bikes are great, but there are, just like Artie said, a ton of bikes that are used, whether they're in our house or whether they're someplace else, and we may not know, what to do with them. Like, I've had people come to me and say, I got a bike, but it doesn't work, and essentially they just had a flat tire, but to them it was a broken bike. Or someone who says like, oh, something stuck or what have you. But oftentimes they're things that if you take it to someone like Artie or like a small shop or somewhere else, you'll find that your bikes probably are more, they probably could be more easily converted into something you could use for fun and daily activity. Racing, no, probably not. But another point that I make to people is, you don't need to spend a lot of money on a bike. And I hope I'm not ruffling any feathers by saying this, but if your conversation starts with the price of your bike and all of its gadgets and whatever, or if someone is telling you that you need a certain price bike or certain gadgets, that's probably a little bit more ego than it is about really being in the spirit of getting you on your bike. So the first goal I always tell people is to get moving. And a lot of these marketplaces that sell used goods, period, they likely have bikes. So I do encourage people to use local shops. But you're always going to see bikes for sale, Facebook Marketplace, like you will always. But the second part of that, which pretty much is, if you want a bike, you want a new bike, let it be a bike that's new to you, as opposed to like upcycle or recycle. Do that. Then the second piece of that is also just understanding that the first thing, the main thing, the most important thing is to just get on the bike and start riding. Bikes are like many other things. It will probably not be your last. It may be your first or not. You can upgrade it. You can get another. You can sell it to someone else who's coming in. But just start riding, because it's a lot of people out here with $2,000 and $3,000 bikes that they picked up, brought home. They've been taking pictures with it and posting it on Instagram. They've yet to ride it. And then when they do ride it, they ride it for 2 miles down the street or in a group ride or something. And they could have did that with a $50 bike.
Or rental.
Or a rental.
Or a rental from Bike and Brunch Tours.
Right.
Yeah, but it wasn't as fashionable.
Whatever. There's some used bikes that are way cuter than some new bikes. And I will even go as far to say this. Walmart bikes, there's nothing wrong with those, or any other place that you get. Get on the bike. Just get on the bike. Yeah, they may not do all the things, but let's be really honest about it. Who's going to use their bike is their primary motive or way of making money. Are you competing? And now, mind you, if you're going to get out and you want to start riding with road cycling groups and other groups and things, but if you're just doing it for your own, COVID exercise routine, getting out the house, getting from point A to point B, I wouldn't really stress it. And if you don't want to ride with them because of the type of bike that you're on, you don't want to ride with them anyway.
Yeah, and that's true. But see, you also all of that came from the woman that has the same bike from the day I met her. Yeah. I have gone through about 40 bikes, maybe in the last year. But yeah, I've gone through that many. I can't tell you how many. She won't even allow me to just overhaul it. So
really, but I do. Well, he is holding on to a beauty. So over there, it's an antique that, but it's not one that I probably would ride. But yes, I would like to possibly overhaul my bike, and I do actually own another bike, but I'm loyal like that. So the bike that my new bike.
Look at Artie's face.
I know I haven't rode that bike in a while.
Yeah, but she'll ride. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with
this is on record.
That's just me. I'm the tinkerer. I want to do
this. This is on record. The bike will be put off this weekend.
Right. So let's make this the Bike and Brunch Tours with LaKeisha Love Fest. It is. See, we got everyone. Anybody watching this, understand? Okay. She thinks don't tell her. Okay. She thinks I'm doing this and I support her to help her. Yes, I'm going to help my friend. That's whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm going to do that. But she does. But what I can't, and maybe I'm not the best at conveying, is as much as I may be doing something for her to take care of a task for her, she's doing something for me to kind of crack the shell and make me see and do some things, right? So what you see, I told you got to get that thing out, y'all. So as much as she thinks I'm doing for her, she's doing for me because she's trusted me with a lot of. She just trusted me with a lot. So, sure, I feel compelled to do it, but it's kind of like an automatic before, and then you feel just compelled to continue doing it. You can't see my hand. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. To continue to do things. So that, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do it. And kind of one time I kind of wanted to say, "Ooh, look," and go steal a bike, just go in the back of the truck and roll off, and then bring it back. Say, "Yeah, I found it, but man, they made it look good." But that's me.
It's not beautiful, no, Jake.
Exactly. No, she is.
And this is where everybody knows that people will basically personify their bikes. I have not named mine. Most people have. So if you get around people, it might get weird when you start hearing them talk about the names of things like, it's the bike. So
yeah,
I got you.
Basically,
But that's like with cars or anything else.
I'm a bike foster parent. They come in, they go out.
Yeah, that's true. That is true because he has been referred to as the Godfather. I like to say too that like a lot of people who've taken the tour, who rented a bike or didn't have one, I'd say that probably within 6 months to a year of taking a tour, they were on their own bike, if not on their second bike. I know people who probably didn't own a bike or maybe had one that wasn't in great shape or they couldn't ride it. And after taking the tour and connecting them with the Godfather, I always joke because he's always blessing people with bikes, and helping them get their bikes up and running. They're off and going. And that's one thing that I'm really happy to see as well, that people's excitement. I've had people come on a tour, they ask often, how much do I need to have? How good do I, how far? And a lot of these questions that you can tell people are intimidated. But I've had people from 50 to 70, not the 50s old or anything. So for those, but who haven't been on a bike in 10 to 20 years, and are very intimidated, or maybe say they only rode a bike a couple of times. And I definitely say, ask the questions. We don't mind. Send an email with your concerns. We'll answer them. But these people often come back and after the tour say, "Hey, I rode my bike again the following weekend and I caught the bug." And then I'm looking, their whole social media feed is now them on bikes and with friends, and it gets to be something that spreads. So they may have been the only one to take a tour, but now you see their kids and their friends and their family members now riding. So that's one thing that I really enjoy, that the tour makes the distances as well seem less intimidating. Our shortest tour is 5 miles and the longest is 10. And a lot of times people are intimidated by the 10. I remember when we just had a 10-miler, people didn't know what the distance was. We didn't have it posted. And they would say "Wow, there's no way I would have made it through that 10-mile tour you guys had." And we laughed that was a 10-mile tour because we stopped in between, and the ground we cover and the things we see, often people then also discover wow, I passed my post office, my grocery store, I passed the place where I go with a brunch or happy hour or whatever, and they realize how much more easy it was not only to get there but to hop on and off, turn around. And so you have people who not only ride their bike more but tend to use it as a more functional tool after the tour. So I hope to see that, not even just through the tour, even if people just do group rides or with all of the groups that are sort of popping up that we see now. So that's really exciting.
There's definitely an expansion of bike lanes, more DC, everything. I remember last time I was one of those people. I was like, "Yo, this bike lane, I'm trying to get down Georgia Avenue." But I definitely because now, let me tease myself a little bit. Now I live down near Georgia Avenue, down near Silver Spring, and I see the bike lanes. I got one of the ride shares right near my house, and every blue moon I might grab one, right? And now it's just I enjoy the bike lanes way more than I used to, because as a person that didn't ride since I worry about safety, because I grab a bike from coming from work, I don't have a helmet or anything. Mm-hmm. And with that expansion of bike lanes in Baltimore, would you have any tips for people that are getting back into it and they're not scared for distance, more about safety?
Yes, that's an excellent question. And again, it's going to take me off into a little bit of a tangent, only in that people will probably just assume that because I bike and, you know, there's Bike and Brunch Tours and all of these other things that tend to directly align with bike lanes, that I'm going to be like, yay, bike lanes all the time, everywhere. I support, you know, I understand the function of bike lanes. I support them. And I definitely encourage people that before they push back against, you know, like take the bike lane away or it's in the way, that they actually consider why it's there, who's using it, and look at all that. But I also encourage the people who are pushing for these bike lanes to be everywhere to also consider what all the alternatives are. So to answer your question directly, or to speak to you directly, that's so important because, frankly, they always say it with bike lanes and when you go into transportation planning and engineering stuff that, like, if you build it, they will come, referring to, like, people who say we don't need a bike lane because we don't have that many cyclists. But often you don't have that many cyclists because, like you say, people are not comfortable if they're intimidated, as they well should be, because people drive crazy. And I tell people this, you know, I probably shouldn't say this, but I always tell people my motto is make it to brunch, get home alive. Because it's not as intimidating once you're on the bike, when you see traffic and riding in the road and all that. But I will say that there are people who clearly aren't paying attention. People are distracted. But it's even more important to have people create programs and have cities create have everybody be more aware of people who are on foot, people who are biking, and talk about not what bicyclists need to do to be safer, but also what drivers need to do to make it more conducive, because we should be sharing the road. I do believe that bike lanes, protected bike lanes specifically, because I personally am not a fan of that bicycle stencil that's painted on the ground. And they're like, hey, or the sign that says, hey, bike here, share the road. But yet it's cars riding down the road at 65, 50 miles per hour in a 25, 35 mile zone. But they're sort of like, hey, you should be here because there's a stencil of a bike on the ground, so you're safe. I'm like, if you're going to do the bike lane, do it protected. I feel like if you cross into my bike lane, there should be evidence on your car and your bumper that you came over here. Like, you shouldn't just be able to hit a little ticker taper thing, because that means if it's not intimidating enough and you're willing to cross that line and double park, that also means that you're willing for me to put my body out into the road and possibly get hit. And I think that if cars don't feel there's some risk, they'll go ahead and do that. That being violating sort of that space is created. But on the other side, I just really think there's not enough emphasis on driver responsibility to cyclists on the road, like scanning, being aware, knowing the speed limits. And also there are programs called Slow Streets now to encourage people to drive slower. And I guess I'm looking for the words and I'm being diplomatic, but most of those slow streets are in places where the speed limit is 25 miles per hour. So the question is, what's happening? Why? I can bike comfortably down a 25 mile per hour street if people are doing 25 miles per hour. So then there's that also trade-off that I think will also change now that more people are biking. At least I hope that if you're on a bike and then you get in your car and you drive and then you see a person on a bike, the odds are you probably won't zoom past them at 65 miles per hour, knocking that like within a 1 foot radius. You're going to say like, oh, I know what it feels like to be passed by a car that goes that fast. So I think that I say all of this to come back and say that I think that more people biking is actually helpful. I won't say as helpful, but close to it, as having this actual built infrastructure that takes tax dollars. I think the education and the experience in creating accessibility for people to be able to get a bike when they need a bike, to be in a space, to feel comfortable riding, and to be incentivized to do so, whether it be through work programs, whether it be through social programs, whether it be businesses having places where you can lock and store your bike when you come and go. All of that, I think, helps keep people safer without actually having to spill the paint and put the infrastructure in place.
I was about to say it makes me personally hyper aware of like bikes and everything, especially with like Rock Creek Park right there and everything. And like now I drive through Rock Creek Park like, oh, it's flooding. Oh my gosh, I hope nobody
Right.
Flash.
You notice now, right?
Yeah.
Because if you don't think about. So yeah.
It's a total difference from the last time you spoke to us. So now.
But then it's funny because see, y'all probably thought a little bit like, oh, they're a little too into this. I don't understand it. I can't relate. But then when you get on the bike, and it's so funny because you know how like when you first start something, everybody's so into it, and you just like it's not that deep. But then when you get into it, you don't realize.
I'm into it now.
And your friends who've been biking, and I will admit that is the one thing about this that for people I know who I guess have been either working and organizing around cycling or just doing it for fun or even for sport, everybody's happy to see everybody coming into the space. But there's also this sort of like, but that's what we've been saying. Like why are you talking to me like this is new? And it's like this excitement but frustration because it's just like we've been trying to get y'all to ride for the last 5-10 years and you've been talking trash and now you excited and you want us to go and we're like, nah, I'm tired of that. Yeah, we're happy for you, but we also understand there are a lot of people out here who are not new to this. So give them space, like, and also maybe even tell your friends like, okay, I get it. I see what you were talking about.
That's it. I get it. That's it. That's it.
And then also, I'll add on that for people who are biking with new groups, or their new organizations forming, what have you. That's great. The more in the space, the more room. We are not a monolith. Every nuance has its reasoning. So that's great. I also add to that, connect with places that have been in existence. They've been there. They've probably laid groundwork, a foundation that you don't know about to make it easier for you to come in spaces, to get sponsored, to get support, to actually have the city allow you to ride in big, massive group rides without the police chasing you down or doing things. And they've done a lot of that without any type of acknowledgement or gratitude, which is fine. I don't think they're looking for it. But I do say that at least, like, you know, when you start something, do a little bit of the homework. Just dig down and see who was there before. See if there are any resources that can be shared, exchanged. If you don't find any, fine. But at least, you know, try to build community as you're building a community. So
I like that.
Pour into that thing that made you happy. Pour into it. Yeah, for sure.
I like that. And take your bike to the Godfather. Take your bike to the Godfather and then check out Bikes and Brunch Tours. And then you're straight, man, and enjoy your day.
Well, I'm not even referring to us two, but thank you for the shout out.
No worries. You gotta shout you guys out. Why not?
Oh my gosh. But I really appreciate you all. I don't want to take over your interview, but
No, you good. And I appreciate
know what you all have been doing.
We're here. This
Sure,
guy.
you just say you've been here, dog. Your story is way better than that.
Okay.
But nah,
You say that sound like you guys have been riding, both of you. Like, I saw a bike, I'm hearing bike stories, and
That has been my motivation. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Other than the weather, for me, it's a little bit too cold. That's why I haven't been out.
That's a whole nother conversation for another interview. But the gear is important because when you have the right gear on, it doesn't feel as cold. It's a little bit of a mental hump to get past, like knowing it's cold, then getting on your bike. But when you put the gear on and you're on your bike, as long as you're moving for the most part, or if you're moving to a place that's warm, you're good. I mean, with COVID, it's a little different because you don't have I'm biking to a place and I'm going into another warm spot, and you know it's open and you can hang out there. But I definitely encourage people as they grow into like cycling more to experiment with the all-weather riding. Because a winter ride is completely different than a summer ride, and sometimes can even be
refreshing.
I dare say more comfortable, refreshing. Yes, that's a better. The crisp air, you know, the scenery, even just like if you're going on trails, even the city, everything just looks different and feels different.
You're right. Now, before we leave out, are there any like basic safety tips you have for our listeners out there that's trying to ride? Of course, wearing your helmet. That's the given. Wear your helmet, people.
I want to speak on the helmet, but I won't because it's a public forum. But I would just say, understand that there are nuances. That wearing a helmet is always a good idea. It's always going to be encouraged. But I also encourage people not to troll or harass people in the street who aren't wearing a helmet, because there might be reasons for it. And we can, how can I put it? There are certain things that are barriers. I won't say the helmet is necessarily a barrier, but there's certain conversations that have been had and that are promoted to us in the cycling community because of the foundation in which the community is in and doesn't consider all people in all spaces of biking. But I do encourage it. I want to put out there though that if you want to go down the rabbit hole of the helmet conversations, check out organizations like Equicity, and Red Bike and Green and other organizations that represent mostly Black people on bikes, building community around those and how they operate and approach something. But no, I do encourage that. I will also say this: always clip out before you come to your stoplight. That's probably insider for the people with clipless pedals are looking at that. But yeah. And as far as just safety, my safety tip is use your common sense. Like, I feel like a bike becomes really intuitive. It becomes natural. And if you get really caught up with like, this is the right way, this is the wrong way, that it can probably trip you up. I mean, there are some rules that are just there because they work. But yeah, I just say common sense is key. You know, like for instance, there are places where you're not supposed to ride on the sidewalk. But if it's a busy road and there are a lot of potholes and clearly there's not been maintenance, I say live to fight it out in court another day. You know, I definitely encourage people to like, so one thing that I do encourage, always keep lights and reflectors on you, especially during this time of year. I mean, not even, just once September through May, keep a light and reflector in your bag. Because it is inevitable that you're going to get caught with the sundown or something, and visibility is everything. Like your goal is always to be visible, whether it's riding closer to the center than the side of the street, whether it's colors. I admit I love a black bike, and I love to keep black on black on black all the time. But you know what? I have a reflector, everything. My black helmet has a light on the back of it. I mean, just, you know, so it's just that thing of, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. So stay visible and use your common sense. Also audibles. When you're riding with groups, call out where you're going, what you're doing. Don't let people, don't slide in front of people when you're riding in group rides. Like, let them know when you're coming over. Like moving. I see that happen a lot in like newer group rides. So I like to share that for people. Give people their clear distance. When you're riding and you come behind another cyclist, don't tailgate, especially if you're a newer cyclist, because if they stop, it's not just you and them, it's you, them, the people behind you, the people beside you, all of that. So give the clear riding distance as well, because the group, and also keeping in mind that group rides and individual rides are sort of different. So being just have a different kind of awareness, understanding when you're riding in community versus riding on your own.
Thank you.
Artie, you have anything to add?
Okay.
Yeah. What she said. I mean, yeah. I think common sense is the biggest tool. Is the biggest piece of protective gear that you can carry with you. I mean, LaKeisha touched on so many things about riding in a group. You know, be seen. You know what I'm saying? This is one of the, situations we're fighting to be seen and to be included. So be seen while you're out there on the road, because you are included with, 3,000-pound vehicles and plus, um,
And stay in. I'm sorry, I just thought about this. I see this on a lot of group rides. I know it feels really freeing to be out in the road with groups of people and you're taking over 6 lanes of traffic. But if you are in a group ride and your group has not, one, for the organizers, if you're an organizer, try to send information about how you're gonna ride. Like, are you stopping at lights? Are you going through? Have people who are gonna volunteer, ask them to volunteer ahead of time to cork. Cork basically is like when you have people who come at intersections to allow the group to stay together and stop traffic from coming through and breaking up the ride. Have people who are going to be your sweeps, people who stay in the back. It's inevitable somebody's going to have a breakdown, get lost. The person who's like really excited, but they really just don't ride at the same pace as everybody else. But you want to make sure it's a good experience for them. And then just be able to communicate those things ahead of time or before your ride starts, just to keep people safe in a group. But then for the riders, don't ride against traffic in a big group. Like if you're riding with 400 people and if you all can stay in one lane, that is like ideal, packing people into that lane. If you're going to take up the whole lane, basically keeping the traffic behind you, that's great. When you start crossing into oncoming traffic, you got 2 or 3 people who have bumped over that double yellow line. That gets to be really dangerous because a lot of these rides are happening at night. And you got bikes who are socially riding, looking at people, having fun, taking pictures and facing oncoming traffic. So I definitely encourage people stay in the lane of traffic when you're riding in group rides. That is the direction you're heading in.
You're following the same rules as
your vehicle, your car, essentially.
Yeah. And when you do, and a really good point that LaKeisha made, when you do cork, if you are that person corking, and if you're holding up traffic, when you're done and you release traffic, say thank you. Really, because you don't want to be that rude person. See, I could actually use my nice words. You don't want to be that person that the person has a grudge with once they turn that corner.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
So because let's face it, in a grudge match, a 20, 20, 25, maybe 30, depending on what you ride, and pound bicycle plus you versus an automobile, you're going to lose. Whether you're right or wrong, you're going to lose that particular grudge match. So just say thank you. And then, and then move on. You're going to do it again. Just, say thank you and move on. It's not about being nice. It's about bringing your common sense and protecting yourself.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. That was, write that down. Common sense. Use your noodles, people.
Noodle. Use it and protect it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ride to ride another day.
Right.
Exactly. Indeed. Now, LaKeisha, can you drop your handles for us again? The social media, please.
So I first of all encourage everybody, follow and subscribe on Bike&BrunchTours.com. That's BIKEANDBRUNCHTOURS.com. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Bike and Brunch Tours, same thing. And also on Twitter at Bike Brunch Tours. We are in not only Baltimore, but we are also rolling in Richmond and Charlotte. So if you are there or you want to do a ride down bike day trip, come back, or you just happen to live in those cities, that's great. We're also looking for other cities. So if you are in a city and you want to see us come to you, let us know where we should head next.
Let them know. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Shout out.
For having us.
And we shall do this again.
Please. And we have to ride.
And I'm about saying we have to do a ride.
Yeah.
I'm about saying now that we have Brandon on the bike now, we have to do a ride.
Yeah.
And Brandon, understand, champ. You don't know how close you are to me right now. Like how close you live to me.
Oh my God.
I'm right up 29 from you.
Hey man, let me tell you, I'm gonna be very, very honest. I biked up 29. It's scary.
Ooh.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. It sounds, yes.
You know where I live. I came down 29 hill. It's scary.
You are a cyclist now. I
That's your card now.
wouldn't try it.
Ooh, well, then you know what? Let me do this, 'cause I don't think I've ever done this before. If anyone ever has any questions that I can answer, because look, I don't know everything, but I know how to find stuff. So if you ever want to find me on IG, I never really checked my Facebook. On IG, I'm basically my name, Artie Bendhall, ARTIE, B as in boy or Bravo, ENTHALL. Just Artie Bendhall. I'm on IG. There's a hashtag on there for something that's coming. It'll be like, it says Jive Cranking, and that's just because I'm from DC. I grew up listening to go-go, playing in go-go bands.
Okay.
Still don't know, but look out for 2021.
AKA the Godfather.
Yeah.
Or the Dog Father, wherever he is.
But thank you guys again. Thank you, LaKeisha and Artie. Thank you guys. And stay tuned and keep a lookout for Bikes and Brunch Tours.
One bike, one brunch, mini tours.
I love it.
Thank you.
And we will have all that information in the description below. So stay tuned. And thank you again for listening to Rebel Radio, ladies and gentlemen. Good night.
Good night.
All production for this show has been done by
Rebel Media Group. Let's build your brand with you.
Contact us to take your business to the next level.
You can email us at mediarebelgroup@gmail.com.
If you enjoyed this podcast, like, share, and subscribe.